All right, everyone, if there is one very big deal, very big truth that I want to share with the world and talk about endlessly, especially in this video, because no one else is talking about this, it's birth trauma. Now, birth trauma is not a conversation that is had near as much as genetics, which is what the conventional medical system still blames things like autism, ADHD, anxiety, seizures, and chronic illness in our kids and families. The conventional system is still like Marty McFly in the DeLorean. It is decades in the past, really looking at things from a genetic neurotransmitter imbalance, bad luck basis, and blaming our poor health on that. Now, you probably have moved past that. If you're watching this video, you're tuned into our channels, you probably know that lifestyle environment is a much bigger deal than the conventional pediatrician says. You've learned all about dairy-free, gluten-free, glyphosate and Roundup, and all the chemicals and all the toxins and all the terrible food choices that our current lifestyle brings at this toxic load level. But maybe you've already removed gluten. Maybe you've already worked on your child's gut microbiome and gut-brain connection. Maybe you've looked all the way down these rabbit holes to say, this is the root cause, this is the root cause, this is the root cause as to why my child is sick. You've watched people on Instagram and dug in. You've taken online courses and spent days up late at night on YouTube consuming information about all these things and been told that's what it is. It's toxins, it's chemicals. And maybe you've gone to great lengths, I know many of you have, to completely change your lifestyle, to completely change your child's diet, to put them on thousands of dollars of supplements and homeopathics and essential oils. Maybe you've even gone down the functional neurology route of primitive reflexes and brain exercises and lasers and so forth. And still your child struggles. Still they're chronically sick. Still they're not speaking. Still they have seizures. Still they have whatever struggle it may be, fill in the blank. And they're still going to have it until someone tells you the real truth as to a completely overlooked, but yet scientifically and research proven trigger and factor of chronic illness in kids. And that's birth trauma, birth interventions. Now, birth trauma goes both ways. Birth can be, and often is, very traumatic for our rock star moms, who are the most incredible people on earth, bringing our babies from conception through pregnancy to labor and delivery. But the medical system has done just that, systemized pregnancy. We are now diagnosed as pregnant, and labor and delivery has become this conventional medical system that some reason, for their reasons, needs to be completely dictated and controlled by doctors instead of by moms, doulas, midwives, and natural birth experts. And even, like in our family, because I have a child who struggled, who went through and experienced a traumatic birth brainstem injury, hence my conviction and passion around this topic, coming right out of the gates full send on this video. We didn't plan for birth intervention. We didn't plan for a brainstem hypoxic brain injury. We didn't plan for Oliver to go from one hospital to another in a helicopter. We didn't plan for him to have 3 life-saving surgeries and be on life-saving medications. See, medicine and its intervention, even around labor and delivery, while completely traumatic in these cases, is often life-saving. But here's what you need to know from this video and the science I'm going to explain next. It is also life-altering because birth interventions, forceps, vacuum, C-section, induction, breech, cord wrap, decelerations, these are major issues, not only in that moment in time, and they're not only affecting mom and baby's health in the moment, but we now know they're a big deal for the rest of their life because they shift the nervous system into what's called sympathetic fight or flight response. A traumatic birth is exactly that, traumatizing. And the nervous system reads stress of all kinds, emotional stress, physical stress, birth trauma, to the neck, brainstem, and the most important area of the nervous system. I'll map that out here in the meat of this video. And then the toxins show up. So let me just hit that one more time. Genetics, they're always at play, but not that much. Gluten, toxins, diet, the microbiome, gut health, very big deal. But it is not the initial trigger. In 85 to 90% of the case histories we take in our practice, and I have dug deeper than any doctor ever into tens of thousands of case histories And all the research out there about this conversation around autism, ADHD, and chronic illness in our kids. And I can tell you for sure, the research is clear. Birth trauma and birth interventions are a big deal. And the research and the science and our understanding of it is clear. We know exactly what it does. We know exactly what the consequences are. And here's the most exciting news at the end of this video I need you to stay through and get to. We know exactly how to find it and exactly what to do to take care of it and help your child's brain, nervous system, and entire physiological system heal if birth was traumatic and had these interventions to it. So this isn't going to be the shortest video out there on the internet. This isn't going to be the calmest, most easygoing video out there on the internet, because it honestly ticks me off that this is such a dismissed topic out there, because I watched my son go through it. And that was both I don't know what you would call it. That was a blessing in the degree of this. I knew the big deal that birth trauma to the brainstem from his fast, traumatic, injurious birth was, and I knew exactly what I needed to do to take care of it and to fix it as well. And so the fact that parents don't yet know this is the reason we're making this video. It's the reason we talk about this on our pxdocs and PwC platforms endlessly. It's the reason we have our Experience Miracles podcast, and one of the first and many and always episodes that we'll talk about is birth trauma. So let me get into it. I just need you to know it's way more than genetics. It's way more than gluten. It's way more than gut health. And the fact that 30, 40, some hospitals, 50% of kids are born via C-section. And then if you add up all the interventions, it's way past 50% of births having intervention, is a way bigger deal than most people are talking about. But why? Number one, birth trauma, the physical injury to the neck, let alone all the toxins from the medications, epidural inductions, and those sort of things, let alone all the emotions that go into mom and baby's nervous system by being in that intervention emergency crisis situation. All of that sticks. That's how I want you to know it. All of that sticks into the nervous system, and it gets stuck on what's called the sympathetic fight or flight system. See, our babies, especially because their brainstem, where those forceps, vacuum, and big hands go to yank and twist them into the world, they can't protect their neck. They haven't been out here yet and gone through motor development and dealt with gravity. So the neck, we all know this, is the most precious, easily injured area for the baby, which is why when they're brand new and you hand them off to someone else, you say, hold the head, hold the neck. It's the same language. Nobody says this except for neurologically focused, nerdy pediatric chiropractors. What we're really saying is hold their precious nervous system, hold their brainstem, hold their autonomic nervous system, hold their vagus nerve. Now, again, nobody says those nerd words, but you need to know those words if your child had birth intervention, because those are the things that are now dysfunctional and thrown off track by birth trauma. The terms for this are what's called nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, and dysautonomia. Now, those 3 Ds, dysfunction, dysregulation, dysautonomia, there's another catch-all word that we've already shared a little bit with sympathetic dominance, but neurologically focused chiropractors have a catch-all word called subluxation. Now, subluxation is physical due to the physical injury of the neck, the spine, and the cranial system, but subluxation's biggest deal is the neurological consequences. That dysfunction, dysregulation, and dysautonomia is just a neurological term for that sympathetic fight or flight system getting stuck on, and therefore the parasympathetic and then vagus nerve, a very important rest, soothe, sleep, relaxation, digestion, immune function, and overall nervous system regulation nerve that branches from the brainstem. That is the nerve and the area of the nervous system most easily and often and directly and significantly injured during birth interventions and birth trauma. And what does this look like for a baby? It looks like a baby who can't turn their head, latch, and nurse and digest very well. So colic, fussiness, reflux. It looks like a baby whose head and neck may be stuck in one side or one position or be flattened, torticollis, and plagiocephaly. It looks like a baby because when you have all this, their ears and their sinuses don't drain well. So when they begin to teethe, or when the weather shifts, or a sibling brings home a cold, they get congested and they never get rid of it. They get chronic ear infections. What does that look like? A kiddo that grows out of those things, because the pediatrician still today says, colic is a big deal. We don't really know what causes it. Reflux, here's your Prilosec, which is a medication really only studied for adults and never for kids, and just put them on it and shut it down and suppress it, and they'll grow out of it, and they just dismiss your concerns, even though you know your baby shouldn't be crying all the time and your toddler shouldn't be melting down all the time, because that's what happens. They don't grow out of it. They grow into sensory overdrive, meltdowns, tantrums, and developmental delays. Birth trauma is the biggest overlooked factor that causes developmental delays. Now, those may be gross motor delays, so late to walking or late to crawling, late to walking, late to talking. Those are significant developmental delays that may, if bad enough over time, end up in an autism or some sort of diagnosis, but also developmental delays in terms of social, emotional, behavioral, cognitive regulation, and emotional regulation. So that's where diagnoses like sensory processing disorder, ADHD, and even anxiety in our little ones can show up. Our kids do not grow out of this physical birth trauma. They get locked into this sympathetic fight or flight storm. We call it the perfect storm because it just keeps brewing and it has multiple factors that cause it. That's the perfect storm. And it leads to multiple struggles with their digestive health, their immune health, their motor and sensory development, and then their brain and nervous system function on down the road as well. So at pxdocs in our practice, we've known this. The reason we found this isn't taught in school. It's not taught in chiropractic school. It's not taught in medical school. It was taught to us by doing one thing that no other doctor does. Actually shutting up, sitting down, knee to knee, and listening to you. Moms and dads go all the way back into the case history and tell us about the fertility and the pregnancy journey. Tell us about labor and delivery. Tell us how was their baby. Did they sleep? Did they soothe? Did they digest well or not? And then did they grow out of those things, or did they grow into the current challenges that parents present to care with us for? Seizures, autism, sensory, spectrum, anxiety, ADHD, asthma, allergies, pandas, PANS, you name it. Kids are struggling with it today, and conventional medicine blames genetics, and holistic and natural medicine will frequently blame toxins and gluten and gut health. And they're both right. Those are both at play. They're a part of it, but that's it. They're a part of it. They're not the whole story. The nervous system is the one system that controls everything. The area physically, anatomically, that controls the nervous system more so than any other part of the brain is the brainstem and the upper cervical spine and that vagus nerve. That is air traffic control for all primary functions. And when those get dysfunctional and offline, that's when the perfect storm begins to brew. And the number one most overlooked factor that is fueling chronic illness in our kids and really, really, really kicks off the perfect storm is birth trauma. So how do you find out if that is what's going on with your kiddo? Number one, this information, these articles and other things we can link to this, the podcast episodes that we can link and dive deeper to this. This is kind of an introductory conversation. I know I went deep into some neurological terms, but there's so much more to this that I want you to know if your child. So the first thing I want you to do is just ask yourself this: was that our story? Was pregnancy stressful? Was there intervention at birth? Was there now I gotta give you some clarification on this. Medicine will have normalized it. The OB, the GYN, the OBGYN, the hospital, the pediatrician, they all said, oh yeah, no big deal. We yanked your kid out with a big set of pliers, forceps, a big plunger, vacuum, a big set of hands, manual assistant, induction, C-section. They have normalized it because they've systemized it. So they're not going to tell you the truth that this is a big deal neurophysiologically and connected to your kid's health challenges later on. So you won't get the answers or the information in the conventional system because they're a part of the problem, straightforward in that way. So what you got to do is you got to ask yourself, talk to your spouse, to go back into your child's case history and go, man, do you really think something at birth could have been there? That is step number one. Step number two, continue to do your research. Our platform will continue to empower, educate, and advocate for parents to become informed, actually fully, really informed about what the root cause of their child's challenges are, what's triggering them, and what they can do about them. So just send us a DM, put a comment below if you want more info about this. We have articles, we have research, we have videos, we have podcasts, we have so much more about this, and we will connect the dots. And step 3, get connected to one of us. Get connected to a PX doctor and a nervous system focused pediatric and family chiropractor. There is a lot of other professionals that we've been blessed to educate and inform about this real big issue as well. And there's a few researchers out in the world who are waking up to this, but the information is not yet out there. So the doctor you need to talk to find out and dig in with you is a PX doctor. We will do a deep dive consultation into your child's individual case history, and we'll connect the dots for you. And then that's step 3A. Step 3B is really the most important thing I can close this video with. You've got to get your child scanned. Now, what does that mean? The neurological insight scans, which is the primary technology that we use in all of our pxdocs offices. You will know you're at a nervous system focused chiropractor if they use technology to find this dysfunction, dysregulation, dysautonomia, and subluxation within your child's nervous system and neurospinal system. The insight scans, which again, we've got a link in our bio, or we'll put a link with this video so you can read more about those and see them visually as well, because they're very visual, and they give us what are called neurological patterns and neurometrics, which will tell us, number 1, is your child subluxated? Is this from the case history? We have a really good understanding of what we're up against, but the case history is just looking backwards. We've actually got to do the exam, a deep dive on your child's nervous system, and find out, is this a problem? And when we find that, then we can get 2 and 3 from this. So kind of 3B, 3C, and 3D. We can find out if it's there. Then we can find out how severe, how significant. And once we have that, we can find out this is the amount or level of care. It's called a care plan in our office. This is what your child may need to get to the other side of the storm. Because the most exciting news I can leave you with is not just the facts and the information that birth trauma is a big deal and it has neurological consequences for life for kids who went through it, but it can be found and it can be taken care of, and the nervous system can heal. The way God designed our children, no matter how old they are, and I'm going to transpose that to when I started with chiropractic care myself. I was 21 years old with a brain that is a classic raging bull, as we call it, stuck in fight or flight, sympathetic. I was the kid who could never sleep. I was the kid full of sensory issues. I was the kid full of impulsivity and hyperactivity and inattentiveness. So I fit every diagnostic criteria for sensory processing disorder and ADHD. Thankfully, I grew up in a small town a generation ago, so no one medicated me and stuffed it down, but chiropractic balanced and regulated my dysregulated nervous system. And now my ADHD brain is a useful superpower to help find this information, take it to the world, and then provide the care that will actually do something about it. So I use, as you can tell from the beginning of this video, my full raging bull, now balanced, regulated, connected system to share this truth with you. And that's what your kiddo deserves. No matter how stuck in the storm they are, no matter how many things you've already tried, conventional medicine or holistic functional, and no matter how old your child is, the brain and the nervous system can heal. So I'm taking a little bit of extra overtime to really emphasize this point. It's never too late. We specialize in the toughest of cases. We always joke with our patients, but we mean this to be true. Whatever medicine and no one else can find, we do. That's our specialty. We know where to look where no one else has. And that is the brainstem, that is the vagus nerve, and that is nervous system dysfunction and subluxation. And we know to pin the tail on the donkey and go, it was birth intervention and trauma that first triggered that. We can't go backwards and stop that from happening. For Oliver, that was going to be his story, and medicine saved his life, and then chiropractic gave him one. Neurologically focused adjustments can get that brain and nervous system to heal. We can get rid of that subluxation, tension, dysfunction, and dysregulation on the nervous system. For some kids, it takes months. Some kids, it takes years. But the transformation will blow your mind. You can go to our website. You can check all over these socials. If you just found this video, it's the first one you're finding on our platform. Not only click on all the links I referenced to this, not only dive into the podcast or our other videos, but just dive into the proof. dive into the testimonials, dive into all of the stories that are connected to birth trauma, nervous system dysfunction, and had their lives transformed by pediatric and family nervous system focused chiropractic. We are here to get this truth to you, step one, but that's just to get to step two, which is to get you connected to a PX doctor's office so you can experience this life transforming care as well. Please comment below with any questions you have. Please comment below. If this video was the one you've been up late at night searching for, please share that with me if we're able to serve you in that way. And my final request is please help me share this video throughout the world, because this is the conversation, as I said in the beginning and I'm saying at the end here. This is what the world needs to know about, because not enough people, not even close, are talking about this real life issue with birth trauma, nervous system dysregulation and dysfunction, and the trigger and the major root cause component that it is to chronic illness in kids. So please share this far and wide. God bless. Be well. See you on the next one.